Neverwonderland, Chapter 1. Damn it, Timmy, his mother screamed from downstairs. If you're late for school again, you'll be suspended. Blinding pain shot down his spine as he forced his eyes open. The same routine every day, always the same, never changing. He showered, got dressed in his same old everyday clothes, and went down for breakfast. You know, she whispered, it'd be cleaner to paint those clothes on you instead of waiting for them to grow on you. Now hurry up, you're gonna be late. She corked a humorous eye at him, and they both recited. Well, at least in his head. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Successful people do every day. If you woke up earlier, it'd be the first day you'd have time to eat. So he ate, and the boy did love it. He loved to eat. He feels, since he's 16, he has the right to be aggravating. Everyone else is. After breakfast, he moseyed out the door and down the block at the usual snail pace, which most parents would consider odd considering how fast music blaring in his ears were. It didn't matter. School was only a few blocks away, and he usually got there smack. He never seen it coming. And now there's little Timmy awaking in darkness, his eyes flare in every direction, desperately grasping for something. I'm blind, he thought to himself, but finds nothing. No, wait. I'm dead? It was dark in his eyes, and it hurt. He could walk when something like a gentle voice blew in from behind. Go to the light. There's not a lot of time. Light? He thought to himself, flipping around, only to find a pair of kind green eyes. Yes, that light over there. And always remember, never turn your back on anything. Confused, he turned back around, letting a pain creep in him. Forward. And turning back forward, behold, he's seen it, barely. It was quite distant, so he started jogging. In his mind, no, silly, that's not the light. That's the first star. To the right. It took a while to focus, but there they were, 3 little lights, all in a very long line. So, on and on, he ran, pushing forward without his feet, getting quite tired until he actually passed out, never knowing he was still in motion. Chapter 2. As little Timmy woke, his eyes were overwhelmed with color. Strange color, strong color, as if a computer sharpened it up in a blurry out of the lines fashion. Oh shit, I'm in Oz. Watch your tongue. My weebles need not hear such things. He tried to stand, unsuccessfully. Where are you? Squinting to help his search. My, you're a rude boy, aren't you? Stand up. It's rude to order people before you introduce yourself. Ha! A word for the wise, I take it, he sneered. She stayed quite quiet for a moment and began to giggle. He hoped she would, as the irony caught her, and he got to his feet. My name is Tim, and you are? Come now, Tim, turn around so I can get a good look at you. so he politely did as she asked. He never seen such a beautiful tree. Fruits on levy branch, the leafy branches. Spots and clouds filled in the spooned out portions of the tree. Very good. You're not such a rude boy, are you? Now, come out, my friends. He's all right. He looked over, and still only the voice, until movement in the tree caught his eye. A dozen little antenna balls, unattached from what could be called four legs, even though they were more like triangles on the ground, not touching the ball and antenna at all. They all came into view. Weeble, 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 Weeble. Yes, yes, my friends. Tim, where will you go? Go, realizing he didn't even know where he was. After seeing his lack of, she ingested an answer. If I could, I'd go see the ribbon paths, most certainly. What? Flushing his attention back at her. Ribbon paths? Yes, go, don't worry. You won't miss them. But which way? And she never spoke another word. The forest was full of spectacular trees, all different from the last. Breathed talking. Timmy walked around the thick forest, but found no path, let alone a ribbon. Nothing like a path that takes you into circles, he thought. The forest was littered with weebles, too busy to even see him pass by. After the so long, little Timmy was getting most aggravated. Ah, he screamed. Doesn't anyone know where the ribbon path is? He screamed, Ribbon path? There's no such thing. Timmy never did realize the trees could talk, but I've been told. Nope, never seen it. Don't doubt it even exists. Yep, you're right, don't exist. The beauty of the forest was fading quickly. Is this heaven or hell? He wondered. Then far into the distance, a girl's laughter caught his ear, different from these trees. She was having fun, so he ran towards her voice. As he reached the tree rim, thank goodness, people. And there she was, getting chased by a younger guy, walking towards the house, looking at a big boy eating a bucket of chicken. And he turned towards the other guy, cleaning his car. Excuse me? But, oh, she's pretty, ain't she? Huh, what, yeah, a peach. But I was under 20,000 miles on her. Letting him go on, he figured there had to be someone in this house with a little sense. So he knocked on the door. He won't answer ya. The big boy still chugging his food. Then maybe you can help. Ah, nah, he scarfed. Do you know where I can get to the bus stop or something? The filthy mouth smugged his shoulders. Maybe my brothers. You know, Timmy looked at them all. Your brothers? Yep, we're the Joneses. Pointing to the car. That's Jeremy Jones. Jesse Jones ran by. When the door crept open and a head peeked out, I'm Johnny Jones. Vanishing before another voice. I'm Jerry. Little Timmy tried to get any kind of, but would only just give up. then looking out away from the house made his head dizzy. Lo and behold, the path found him. It sprawled out, waving like a roller coaster. The top was green and lush like and the bottom was darted like a checkerboard. It was incredible. Far off, farther than you'd believe in such a such a place, was a dark palace. The Weeble King sat. Sir, the Cheshire Cat appeared. The boy is there. I'm quite aware of the situation. Let me handle him. Another twisted voice ensued. No, I have plans for our young intruder. 5. This has to be the coolest thing he's ever seen. He ran up and down and side to side and up and around and back, following the path and never fell off. But he never seemed to get anywhere. He just kept going. It was exhausting till he fell back against the stone podium. His mind began racing. It was all moving, so fantastic, and his mind started spinning until something at the edge of the path caught his eye. A tiny 4-square checkerboard, which was unusual for the grass. He cleared his head and decided to go investigate. But as he took his first steps towards the board, it shot to him at breakneck speeds. Timmy awoke in a dying garden. Broken stone statues littered the area. So strange, he thought, seeing the pathway through the 8-foot-tall bush hallways, which in turn would turn out to be in both directions. Then there, in the distance, the sound of metal gears, scratching and grinding, began to get louder and louder. Finding a broken pendulum, he climbed up to the top of the podium to find an endless labyrinth spread out before him. That's when he seen it, jumping over the maze in huge bounds. A gray monster, made of metal. It was fast, causing him to fall backwards, with the metal mammoth now leering over him. Black smoke chugged out its back. Who dares enter my garden? Timmy could do nothing but spit out gibberish. My God, it's gonna eat me. Terror struck through him like cold fire, and the monster leaned back. One of the metal claws hand reached around the back and gave it a couple good whacks. He watched the smoke turn clear and began to puff regularly, and with a switch of gears, the upper torso-sized face mask lifted up, revealing an older gentleman. I'm sorry, the voice boomed again, putting his hand to his mouth as he flipped, turning it all speakers down, turning it all the way off. There, that's better. Timmy was so confused, but was beginning to settle as he realized the play. I didn't mean to frighten you, but you never know who will try to invade my realm. Timmy sat up. It's okay. I didn't mean to invade your... Come on now, boy. Don't be so... I read a book once by the name of Illusions, and you remind me of a tiny clinger. Every day was the same. Every day, everyone he knew stayed right there, in fear they might be taken away by the current, and the promise of death in the rocks below, they say would follow. And yep, those rocks did look pretty mean by the look of them. So they stayed on the side of the wall all day, every day, until the clinger couldn't take it anymore. He didn't care. He just couldn't take another day in this hell. So he let go and flew with the current. All the other clingers watched him pass by. "Look," they'd say, "look, the Messiah." And he expected, they flew at the rocks, but the current dragged him around the furry, crazy obstacles until he finally came to a stop. Other clingers went to war over that one day, seeing him fly by, but that's nor here nor there. Timmy didn't understand the relevance, but he thought it was pretty cool just the same. Excuse me, sir, but," he asked the old man, fumbling around it, trying to get comfortable. "Do you know how to leave this place?" "Leave?" His eyes whined. "Why would I want to leave my garden?" Timmy smacked himself in the head. "No, how do I get home?" "Is that allowed?" "What?" "Yep, you'd better ask the king and queen." "King and queen? Okay. Where do they live?" And as the mask shut and he bounced away, "In the kingdom." "In the kingdom, of course," the speakers boomed. Chapter 6. Not so far away the traps were set, and the bandit gypsies hid in the tree line. Today had to be the day. The damn schizo squirrel had to be stopped. The Neverlands must be pretty terrible to have spawned such a horrible, twisted creature. The sun was far in the south, dropping in the lower hemisphere, out of view. They sat, barely there, only the shadows, the moon rising, and only knew the truth. As they moved out into the light, each one there held realm rings, as the ribbon path strings webbed the forest paths, and only could tell how the days and nights went. Chapter 7. Taking a rest at the edge, Timmy sat leisurely watching the sun, or whatever you'd call it, under his feet. It was amazing how the strange world was weaving, how the clouds seemed to make the solid terrain, and the ribbon paths became the gentle breeze, or at least resembling it. Wow, his mind wandered in ways never before conceived. The funny little animals, if you could call them animals, scurried down the paths, paying him no mind as they passed. Realizing the hour, he decided to continue his search for the kingdom. He walked into an open plateau. Sections of the flourishing ribbon half. The shadows were thick along it, at least most of it. He quickly walked through the trees. Odd noises crept in from the darkness, and for the first time, a sense of fear caught him. At least with Mr. Four-Souls, he could see the danger. Here was different. The nothing fueled his mind, transforming every peep into a hideous incarnation. But he kept steady. What else could he do? The crack of a branch that he stepped on made him squeak, and all the ropes pulled tight. The next thing Timmy knew, he was hemmed up a good 10 feet in the air. Faster than his incline, the band of gypsies flung out, arrows ready. "Wait!" the head called out, causing them to stand fast. "Release the boy." As fast as he finished speaking, Tim fell to the ground, his heart finally able to beat again, although still continued to miss beats as he glared around his disappointed trappers. "Whoa, what do you want with me?" Trying to sound forceful as he stood, and yet they regarded him no more than any other tree or the animals that passed by. Then, as if forgetting the previous situation, he raised his voice louder and demanded an answer. This time, a younger gypsy sprung at him, punching him in the chest. "All night work gone," he screamed at Tim. "And for what, you?" Pulling his knife. "No," the leader calmly said, raising his hand. "You're gonna stop him like that?" Tim could feel his life fading away. The head gypsy's eyes leered questioningly at the young one. But as he opened his eyes, the young gypsies were already rewiring the forest. Glancing over, the leader was headed towards him. Tim stood tall, although the massive figure dwarfed over Timmy's mind. He couldn't hear his knees knocking. Placing his hands on Tim's sour shoulders. "Come," and they walked to a fire that somehow, without him noticing, was lit. The mood was stale around the fire until the band broke. Mother stepped in his mind and the music began. They danced into the night, some would say into the light, but nonetheless. They juggled swords, some blew fire. It seemed to turn into a low-budget carnival of dancing songs. Looking toward the father, realized he was a much older than he ever would have guessed, but could tell it mattered little, being possibly the strongest of all the light-footed band. He noticed the younger gypsy that struck him, also remaining at the fire, quietly sharpening his blade. "So you were hunting, I'm guessing, by the ropes in the trees, but what, may I ask?" "Mainly squirrels, cats, foxes." Timmy started. "Were you—" He started giggling, until of course he caught the eyes of the quiet disciple leering at him. "Do you find that funny, boy? That damn beast destroyed my family, our whole village, and you—" He led calmly again. "I feel this boy is not from around here, and is ignorant to our ways." The young one dropped. "Yes, you're right," Tim continued, "and I'm desperately trying to get home, but I have no idea where to find the kingdom." "Ha ha ha! You're from the kingdom? You're not from around here, my friend. You will be passing the kingdom at sunrise. I'm sorry, we will be passing the kingdom at sunrise. Now rest. We all have a long day ahead of us. Let us get some sleep." Chapter 8. Far off, puffing his usual puff, in musical harmony, the tea was ready. The three sang and danced, tea and cakes for all who were there. Hold the cakes, of course. Every kind of tea, any tea you please. Simply ask, but not so fast, as you all have seen. They dance and prance and seat to seat, never missing a beat. When Erie comes, all fun is done, more vicious than its squeak. Rat went into his pot. The rabbit was no more, leaving the Hatter all alone with those violent, floating eyes. Hatter, the creature called, shaking, crawling back to every nearby tree, spilling his tea. This is the way and that. Tell me, Hatter. A goldish yellow grin appeared floating with him. Where's the young boy got off to? The yellow grin turned into yellow fur. Boy, no boy, only tea, now shivering uncontrollably. Just tea and me. Now fully in view, the golden squirrel floated over to the table, claws in full view, grabbing a cake, placing his head in his hands. Well, you will tell me if you see, boy, he squeaks. Yes, both hands in the air. Yes, of course. As soon as I see him. So the beast turned away. The Hatter released his breath. Wait. Now how would it look? Turning back, just the smile. Chapter 9. Cheshire, the demon Weeble King screamed, echoing through the palace. Cheshire! Fading in fear from the darkness above. You called? That disobedient rodent is distracting me. Follow him. Nothing can happen to that boy. The cat's eyes lit with rage. Of course, my king. Falling back to the shadows. Damn those fool creatures. I have no time to deal with such impertinence. The red cloth mask hung down his chest, waving in the wind. An ominous sight coming into view. Forearms and calf legs, unconnected to the brown cloak, entering the side of the room. A light activated. The demon passed an enormous War Maker machine, now silent, and headed to the far table. You will be my truly pure pet, and continued his project, pouring vials into a bowl, watching the multicolored fumes rise. Apparently far outside the palace, the cat hissed at the thought of wasting his precious time babysitting. Chapter 10. It didn't take long for the sun to rise in the north, and although rested, Tim didn't sleep. Who knows what would happen if you dream in such an odd land? Raising up, he recognized the sound of a stream not too far out, and figured it would be a good idea to wash up before the band awoke. God, who knows how fast they would be before they would be gone. And made his way to the refreshing water. And sure, his eyes were blurry, But this wasn't right. Rubbing his eyes as he double-checked the roots of the fallen tree. Looking again, he watched a couple of fairies splashing in the stream, but with a loud clang and boom from back at the camp, the fairies were gone. He heard the gypsies screaming, "Thieves! Pixie devils!" and had to jump to the side, nearly having an iron pot soar past his head. Would have nearly knocked him out. He was baffled, ducking under the next, and there, running by, was a group of, well, Smurfs or something or other, all carrying coins and gold and silver trinkets, just about anything shiny, within a few steps back of the camp. By the time he got back, the camp was gone, all backed. The whole village seemed to disappear, all into the back of the carriage, where everyone was waiting on horseback. His head started to hurt. "Come, my friend, 3 circles until we pass the kingdom. We must go now." Okay, he didn't know how long a circle was, but there was no way 3 went by as fast as he was getting released. Just another unimpressive path. He looked around, stumped. "Where's the kingdom?" Half the gypsies laughed, and the other half gave odd looks. "Very funny, my friend. Welcome home. Good luck on your journey." And they sped off, becoming smoke. Oh, shit. I have to start wording my questions better. Okay, what's different around here? He looked around. Okay, I'm at one of those few divides in the path, and since the gypsies went that way, he looking down. The next, he didn't know for sure, but it looked like a dead end. Oh, come on. This was an elaborate trap to catch. Oh, it has to be the right way, and got on his way. As the paths went, this one seemed rather bland. Only a couple of bushes led the way. Not at all what he was expecting. And now there he is, at the end, and another one of those enormous clouds in front of him. That was actually... Oh, he whispered under his breath. I should have known better. Leaning his head back in distress, until of course he opened his eyes and realized another foursquare hovering above him. Hey, a whatchamacallit. He stared and started, but nothing happened. Damn it, work! Putting both hands on his head. How did I... But his mind was blank. I didn't do anything. It just attacked me. Getting so aggravated, he plopped and laid in the grass when movement in the clouds caught his eye. Some type of... something went flying out, headed west. He jumped to his feet, even though he might have better luck flagging down a passenger jet. Ready to run, realizing he stopped mid-step, turning back to the checkered box. And as his foot landed, here it comes. When his mind stopped spinning, he actually looked around. He was on the green grass of a croquet field, atop a castle tower, surrounded mostly by clouds. As his gaze whined, the entire kingdom was in this fashion, upside down in a sense. The castle stood upright, but the clouds were more under and the land on top, as if the clouds forged the castle itself from itself. Hearing the commotion of the crowd, he jetted over to a flock of birds, most too stuck up to care. "Can anyone point me to the king and queen?" Finally one turned. "Oh no, not yet. Not in the middle of their Majesty's game. Come, come," he silently blurted, racing to a connecting tower and pushing him through the doors. "Now, you wait here. I will summon you. Don't wander off." But it was too late. The stork had already vanished in the crowd. By the sound of it, it might be better in here. His eyes wandered around and walked right into a gaming hall, I suppose you would call it. That from the cheers. He passed what appeared to be a group of oracles hovering around a crystal ball on top of a map, and watched it as if it were an action flick, and then watched an elephant in front of a sparkling specter of lights turning this way and that way, making it change each time, leaving the onlookers in awe. Noticing Gishnu's tongue hanging out of his mouth, Tim knew it must be different, and continued on his way, until two figures he recognized appeared. Ares, the Greek god of war, and Odin, the Norse god, sitting at the table, planning a simple game of chess. But as he was finally interested in watching the pieces walk around back and forth, here comes the stork. "I told you not to wander," and began pushing him back out the door. Headed back to the main entrance, he noticed a dozen weebles, flipping and changing into card soldiers, and a neatly dressed white rabbit blasting a horn. Nudging him forward, Tim gave an awkward look as he stumbled to the center of the card line, to the door. Before he could move, the queen's voice boomed, "Who dares disturb my day?" Then, oddly enough, his mother's voice rang in his mind. "Mind your manners." "I'm sorry, your majesty, but I was told—" "Silence! Don't interrupt me." Now, honey." Tim frantically wondered where to speak. This must be the boy Weeble King who was told about. Or wait, this must be the boy the Weeble King told us about. "Oh, I see." Her voice was much sweeter, rather disturbing if you'd say so. The king continued, "We know why you've come." "You do?" "Your Majesty," the king laughed. "Of course we do. The queen's getting her words in. You must go to the west, find the tower, and all you seek will be unveiled." Timmy could have floated all the way there. Thank you, your majesty." Finally seeing both pedestals on either side of the door. Only they weren't pedestals, per se. They were the king and queen. He nearly choked. Not wanting to dwell, he was excited. "I'm going home." Then he wondered, would the two halves know what he's even talking about? Chapter 11. Far to the west, the dream dancer glided into the tower. Now, whether it was more horse or dog, it was black with 5 ladybug shells on it, back and legs. Q, the caterpillar, Q, the caterpillar, paced back and forth, nervously puffing his pipe, paying no mind to the jester in the lens, the overseer. Come now, Q, looking over seeing the king's entrance. Did you do it? Did you tell them to? No, I figured I'd leave it to the fates. Q's green skin turned pale. Of course I did. Why else would I go to the castle? The overseer moved close towards the lens from the inside. Good. I hope you're right about the hymn dancer. He is our only hope. Fear not, my friends. I picked him myself. Chapter 12. The Neverlands. Just imagine how Dr. Seuss's nightmare looked. Yeah, unimaginably horrible. Hide inside its shadows. And then you have the palace, dead center of the lot of them. Those who go there say it's alive, but not just one, many. One for each dome roof. The demon Weeble King, the permission of the central room, or so they say. He walks around the palace talking to himself, usually arguing, although this time is different. An odd shadow follows him in the room. Come, Ook, look upon your task. The room was tall, but bare except for a single well in the center. Well, well, well that tells. Tell me where the Weebles dwell. When somehow the room turned darker, and the well began to vibrate, blasting a light out along the walls, revealing ancient hieroglyphs of infinite knowledge. And there in the well, Ook's two black dots peeked over the rim. There, the divine trees blew in the breeze. The Weebles do their daily takes, so bright, so kind. The king couldn't stand it. Go, there, Ook, bring me all the Weebles. Ook looked up at his master and slid out the door. He would do good for his master. Nobody wants to foul up there on their first job. Chapter 13. Although the sun was high overhead, Tim couldn't tell. He wandered around the stone forest, made of statues and pedestals holding podiums. He traveled under the Colosseum, a moment frozen in time, thinking back to the chess match. I wonder who... Ah, shit. Medusa better not slither out or anything. Then, contradicting his own thoughts, what if my thoughts are the thing that makes it happen? But what could he do? He walked. A voice crept in. The truth lies in the details. Unstartled by this, Tim watched the dark maze float from behind a broken pedestal. What? They lie to you. No good can come from the tower. If you go there, things will never be the same. Tim looked cockeyed. And I'm supposed to trust you? Believe what you will, but sometimes a stranger can turn to your savior. Paying him no more mind, he continued west. Go there, but he warned little Timmy, all bad things don't hide in the dark. Chapter 14. The overseer watched the shady figure try to lure him away, even though he wouldn't say a word. With Q in such a conundrum. Terrible seer, the dream dancer inquired from atop the prism, lens tower separated together. That monster knows he's here. Well, of course he does. I'm just surprised it took him so long to interfere. Yes, I suppose you're right, but he seems to be sticking to his guns about it, and there will be more, not so easily remained. He was the king of the weebles, remember, and is no fool. I feel he has other plans in mind. That's why we appointed you to overtake the role, but just the same. Far off, near a waterfall, a number of fairies were playing. Listen, my beauties, find the boy, protect him, but stay out of sight. He mustn't know he's in danger so soon. And they, sensing him, sprang out. It was time for work. Chapter 15. Now Tim didn't know why, but this wasn't right. The trees cried their woes as he passed. The sun was still high and everything was bright, but the trees had no color. Leave here. Go. Before it's too late. Chills went down his spine. Well, if this keeps up, I might have to take the mage's advice. But he kept pace, glancing the surroundings. These are the same trees as before. What happened to you? Walking up to one, placing his hand on the trunk. He could have sworn he felt it shiver. Leave, quickly, before it's too late. On and on they continued, pacing back and forth. He neatly lost his way when something caught his ear. A sludge sound. He closed his eyes and followed, sludging onto a tree or two when he found it. Some terrible creature engulfed a terrified little weevil. Hey, stop that, he screamed. Ook turned, but quietly returned to his hunt, taking another. Ah! Timmy charged the metallic liquid, both slamming into the tree. Ook! Ook! It screamed back, slamming both fists together, creating a streak energy, punching Tim across the meadow. Shaking it off, his rage doused the pain. He stood up and charged again, winding up back there again. His eyes went dark, and standing there. I won't let you take them. Over and over he ensued until Timmy had no energy left. Ook stared at this creature, with his head tilted. It couldn't understand why it would keep coming, so it decided to cut it short, for now, and then bring these back to his master. Tim passed out. Ook couldn't figure that strange creature out. Why would it want him to foul up his first task from his master? And so, as he entered the door, the sound coming through the side door, sliding in. The demon was already waiting into a period and peered deep into the conversation with an assembly line. Ah, Ook, good. You're much faster than I was imagining. Ook was pleased. Place those inferior creatures over there, pointing to a shot. So Ook did. Now Ook wasn't sure over the noise, but they appeared to be in pain. His eyes followed the gears up and around until hanging on a clamp, Mage after mage plopped out, silent, motionless. Look, what are you waiting for? Go! Go! He turned to his master, uncaring words, puzzled, but did what he was told. He was his master's. He slid out a bit slower. Why would that care? Chapter 16. Again, Tim woke, head pounding, turning, Indian style, seating. He couldn't focus. He rubbed his eyes, to no avail, and although the trees had fell silent, the sounds of sorrow remained. He flashed up to his feet, remembering the defenseless weebles, dodged the blurry trees. He charged. Tea? And as he got closer, it got louder and louder. Tea, please? Crushing right into a distract table, luckily knocking his eyes clear. Please, tea? Just one cup? Tim looked to the little man, tied to a tree, just out of reach of his cup, so he walked over and handed it to him. The hatter was so anxious, he shook the tea onto the floor. No, no, tea. I just need some tea, please. Reluctantly, he poured another cup, bumping a jackrabbit that licking butter off a broken clock, and a drunken, I guess, well, either way, a mouse, knocked out next to a broken teacup. Shaking it off, he walked and tried again, but to the same result. Not able to take any more, he headed west, disgusted. Chapter 17. Fading in and out, all over Wonderland, Cheshire searched, cursing the schizo squirrel's unholy name. Ah, me could be anywhere, from path to cloud to pavilion, and get no luck. All in all, Wonderland isn't a large place, but when you can be from shore to shore in an instant, it widens the playing field considerably. Catching his tone, the golden squirrel lowered upside down behind a unsuspicious cat, smiling. It had to be the wildest fight in history of violence. They streaked across the entire plain, flashing in and out, never knowing where there was teeth or claw will appear, until finally Cheshire caught one right to the face and vanished. Chapter 18. Time was winding down, and the ex-Weeble King had started the second stage, walking to his throne in the center. He was truly content. High over Wonderland, like a speeding comet, a micro gangster car from the 1920s charged by, pulling up at the lost second, skipping down the path. Pulling up, and at last, it's at the last second, skipping down the path from the air. Like a roller coaster car, it flew, only faster. Standing still, you'd never know the light trail was a car, especially having 5 occupants, pulling up to the first pavilion and kicking up the door. They streaked out as fast as the car moved. It was as if they had a fast-forward button. As they thrashed the area, the color slipped away. Slowly the mime stepped out, watching his minions work. The little chupacabra boy, holding the shotgun at his side. The bearded woman on her unicycle. The muscle man midget. And the, well, a clown with a dodo on his head that would tap his head saying dodo until he finally repeated, cleared the entire area, retreated to the car, and were gone into the next pavilion. Chapter 19. Timothy had been walking most of the day. He was tired and hungry, only wanted to go home. Finally coming to the end of the ribbon path, he found a way through the wheat field, luckily headed towards a house in the distance. He passed through, figures I'd find food, and its wheat at least. As he approached, he started to get the impression that the place was abandoned. Walking up to the front steps, "Hello, is anyone home?" But there was no answer. About to leave, he decided to ask again, "Is anyone here?" "Darn that got cheer," someone screamed from the field, but all he could see was a scared hillbilly crow puffing on a pipe. "Now you shut up, you old bugger." Tim shot around, back to the front of the house, where a scarecrow was now standing. "We haven't had a guest in a long time. I'm sorry to bother you, but I've traveled a long way." "Nah, don't y'all for the food use." Don't pay him any mind. The hillbilly has quite an attitude. "Come now, you must be famished." Oh, he couldn't eat enough, but not wanting to overstay his welcome, he was off, too full to care, the babbling bastard stuck on the pole. Chapter 20. Quietly they waited, like so many times before, ready to spring, eyes unblinking, noticing every movement in the setting sun's shadow. You don't actually think that foolish constipation contraption will work twice, do you? The Cheshire's voice appeared out of nowhere. The father gypsy stood up, tall. "It caught that bloody fox. So then you just keep waiting. What do you want, demon? What makes... Don't play games with me." The cat's body only coming into view. "Well, I need your help. And I know you want the squirrel." The leader moved closer. "And what do you want in return?" Body disappearing, head coming into view. Face to face. "Do you see what that thing did to my beautiful face?" "Well, do you?" Tossing a box down from nowhere. "Use this and leave me. Use this and leave me be." Looking at the contraption. "Okay, demon, stop the terror and we'll leave you be." Chapter 21. "Yes, of course, seer. You are right," the queen interrupted. "We have to deal with this menace right away." "Rabbit!" the king called out, and the white rabbit slammed into the center of the room. "Yes, yes, your majesties?" "Go retrieve the good boy, bad boy armor." Yes, yes, charging back inside, until Gilbert walked out, slipping in two. The king and queen began to glow, dropping down, each connecting a half to the other half. Can you guess opposing opposites? The queen raised to the good boy arm and The queen raised the good boy arm, and high above, to the cloud pedestal, a card holding a trumpet began to summon. Far below, near the bottom of the cloud, dozens of doors began opening, sending swarms of hornets out. Thousands of them filled the air as the charge of the unholy rampage of the Carney card game, which were not yet another pavilion, now a huge chunk of Wonderland, was terrified and stole of all color, obvious, and moving to the next. It isn't hard to find a trail. Catching them's a different story, and the swarm quickly got to work, each bringing new life to the distorted land. Half the swarm cut loose. Wonderland's a funky place. Not only the paths bend, so they were attempting to cut off the gang, and thanks to the lack of dividers, they succeeded. The mime motioned to the carnies as the carnies leaped out. The swarm divided, bombing the clowns, but couldn't keep up, who in turn blasted them to pieces by piece. The mime watched the two swarms move in, took the shotgun from the Chupacabra boy, and with a single blast of color, more than half fell out, leaving the rest to the Chupacabra, leaping and devouring a lot of them. The overseer was finally starting to feel the weight of the Weeble King's power. The dream dancer, sensing the danger, decided to move into action and headed to the stronghold outside the gates of Neverland, where he had his elite Weebles ready for battle. Each posing a ladybug shell and holding a crystal sword. He walked through the tree camp, and as he made his way, they started following him to the conference stone. Each of the elite raised their sword horizontally, then tapped the sheath in the air to the ground twice. The time grows short. Soon the evil will be raised, and we must hold them off until our secret weapon is ready. But sir, what is it? Can it really work? The dream dancer's eyes began to glow, and he raised upright. The energy began to whirl off of him, revealing a spiral energy armor. Don't worry, my Weebles. Be assured, the weapon is more than enough, so long as he gets there safely. Chapter 23. There it is, finally, as bright as the day. The tower, for the first time, he stopped. How many of those 4 squares had he passed on his way? What miseries might he have missed? What mysteries had almost been waiting at his back? No, there was no time. He was going home, but looked ahead on the way to the tower. There was a windmill to the left and a clock tower to the right. Since there's time, he began to walk to the right, when a familiar sound crept in behind him. Sludge. Ook, 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 it pleaded. He watched as the goo zapped frantically at a group of fairies zipping around. Ook, ook. Now Timothy wasn't sure why, but he couldn't watch this. So with the screaming charge, He darted to the monster's rescue, and although the fairies moved, he was struck once again. Only this time, Ugg crunched over him. Ooh, Ook. Yeah, I'm fine. So Ook stepped back, giving him room to stand. The fairy sat there quietly, flashing back and forth, and headed to the tower. Turning back to Ook. Are you okay? Ook, sounding winded. Oh well, come on. I could see the company. I could use the company. And I'd much rather keep an eye on you. So they made their way to the clock, noticing it was immediately, noticing it was almost immediately, not realizing what it was, becoming the sound of a snoring echoed. There was a neatly kept garden in front. He even knelt down to smell the flowers. I beg your pardon, mister? Sounded like a school teacher. Timothy fell back as the bush lifted to a beautiful woman plant who was actually tending the garden. Oh, no, I didn't, slipping on his tongue. She looked at his eyes and smiled, giving an awkward look to his companion. I was wondering how long it was going to take you. Who, me? She giggled. Come on. My name is Mother Nature. Although they followed, he couldn't take his eyes off her, and barely heard what she said until the echo hit him like a bat. Oh, don't worry about the old Thunderbelly. They could see a cloud asleep on a cloud rolled over. It's just my husband, Father Time. Husband? She giggled and sat there at the table enjoying an unbelievable breakfast and the best orange juice in both worlds. Now the evening wasn't anything like she expected. Instead of talking about the task, he couldn't stop asking about her, what she does, what she likes, and so on. She was quite flattered, to be honest. She couldn't watch him leave, so him and Ook were on their way to the disconnected tower prism. Wait, she called out, running aside, handing Timothy a special red seed. If you get in trouble, throw this into the soil. It'll buy you time to get away. Closing his fist, he kissed her on the nose and walked away, never seeing the beautiful flower bloom above her ear. Chapter 24. Lucky for those gypsies, they knew that the schizo squirrel had no idea what Timothy looked like, so they had a diversion. They got the youngest boy in the clan to walk around the pavilion, secretly holding the box. He walked right through the night. It is a great honor to be the one who gets to capture the beast, even though he could figure out how, looking at it, but never touching the bottom. So tired and hungry, he kept going, eyes always clear, yet he still never seen the crazed monster behind him. Now, the leader screamed, causing him to press the button, tossing it up into the air. The entire bubble area around him got stuck in. Even the squirrel, too concerned with the boy, couldn't vanish away. The leader turned control to the youth. They learned all they needed to know. Him and his wife went home. Chapter 25. The palace voices silently screamed in his head. The pain seared down his being, liquid like liquid nails. The Weeble King thrashed in the air in pain, and an eye appeared on the red mask. The Lord commanded the wall open and found the Carney card game playing their usual ways. Go now, the one's voice boomed so loud, in fact, that the Dream Dancer's army charged the door. The outer line of the gates, swords drawn, the palace scratched. In the minds of the doors opened. Hundreds of dark mages pulled out to stop them, pounding on the gates until it fell. The little weebles flew in the air, slashing through the hive of dark mages, but were outnumbered 30-1, and did little damage. Hearing and searching the hearing the screeching and the dream dancer and the others rush in, denting the flock for a moment, but the numbers were too much. Tears flowed down the dancer's face with such strikes. Only he knew the dark secret these mages held, and how they were the Weebles, their very friends, and they needn't ever know, especially now, as his elite one by one turned to stone. But those who had the shells closed were able to crack out of the stone spell. Chapter 26. Timothy looked up and up and up and up. He couldn't believe his eyes. From the distance, the tower seemed only so tall, but as he approached, the 9 steps seemed to grow higher and higher until he couldn't see past the 5th. Look! Oh, look! I don't know what's next. Quickly learning there wasn't any doors. Ook tilted his head and whipped it up to the top of the first. Look! Tim's mouth dropped. Great, that's perfect. Oh, look! Grabbed hold. Ook flung him up. He continued like this fashion to the 6th step, where the fairies intercepted him. Damn it! He swatted, not hitting one. Then, as they began to sparkle dust on the 2, they started to glow, floating into the air. Okay, that's an idea. Timmy flipping his arms, as if he were swimming, only turning him cockwards. Ook did little better, much preferring the ground. The fairies flashed back and forth. Tim knew they were laughing, and they steered him in the right direction. Up they went. As they passed the 9th step, the dust puffed off, and as soon as they touched the ground, Ook stood a bit closer. The room was filled with smoke, so they had to follow the fairies in. It wasn't long for Ook to smack right into the impatient Q. What? No, no. Who are you? No, no. Pushing the smoke clear. Coughing, Q seeing Timothy. So overjoyed, in fact, that he dived down, lifting him up with an unbreathable hug. You're here. You're her. And in a grave voice, the overseer moved close to the lens. So are they. The two walked towards the edge, close behind, and the sky went dark. Squinting his eyes, Timothy watched hundreds of those mazes, blocking out the sun like a thick fog. The overseer pleaded, "There isn't time. You must jump in the lens and retrieve the book of knowledge." "I have to do what?" "You're the only one able to bring it out. So why don't you bring it here and I'll..." "No, my abilities don't work like that. Only you can succeed." "But I..." Taking a step closer, "Please, for our sakes." Tim lowered his head. "Well, I wondered what I'd do next if I stayed a little longer." But before anyone could speak, Tim closed his eyes and dove right in. A sigh of relief came over the team. Ook tapping on the glass when a streak of light, the little micro car, shot through. Chapter 27. The inhabitants of Wonderland screamed to their homes as the mazes swarmed down. The helpless dove to escape, the grasp only to be frozen solid in place. They weaved the entire domain in darkness, already colorless. The king and queen sat over the bottomless. The king raised his bad boy hand, and a card high on a small cloud, raising his flag, and 100 weebles flipped into the cards, grabbing their spears, and began gliding down to the path. The cards blasted the mazes, dispelled the darkness, leaving only the knocked out weeble. But the mage's numbers seemed endless, freezing the cards unsuccessfully. Of course, flipping the cards off and then on again dispelled the hold. The king and queen took flight, blasting into battle, slashing through dozens at a time. Even the Cheshire Cat got involved, being awoken by one of them. But thanks to his instant transmission, it was also ineffective. The good bad boy armor was like a net as the king and queen swirled through the bulk. But the rip was already open, and the dark mazes poured through. My God, the overseer closed his eyes. How could I have missed such a... Unlike the battle in Wonderland, the elite were pushed back to the brink. "Weebles," the dream dancer summoned. "Win! The power's in you!" But they continued to fight with all their might, now mainly being confined to the ground. And then something terrible happened. Standing at the gate was a demon himself, their king, holding a golden Arabian broadsword, the kind that gets bigger at the end and curves. The last of the mazes cleared out, and it was only them and his burning blue eyes. The dream dancer took point, both kings face to face. An endless frozen moment. The palace started to boom like war drums, fueling his charge. Now remember, he might have hands and feet and a cloak and mask, but he is a weeble, disconnected to himself. So as he sent his ultrasonic slash, it moved 360 degrees around. The impact pushed the dancer back a great deal, holding the block of the blade for support, the back of the blade for support. Unfortunately, the elite were not so strong and flew every which way as it walked through the untouchable. Chapter 30. The tower knew things were about to turn to the worst, as an endless drumbeat began chanting through out loud. Ook listened, looking at the caterpillar. Ook, Ook, who only shrugged. Ah, he screamed, wiping around frantically. Ook, can you hear me? Ook looked at the lens. Yes. Great. So what's wrong? My he's coming. I know. If Tim doesn't hurry, all will be destroyed. No, worse. Much worse. I've seen in the other rooms of the palace. And the great screech tore through the wonderland. The overseer looked. The overseer looked to Oi, then vanished in the lens. The tower's a tricky place. From out you go in, from in you go up. From the prism the overseer watched, the tears sealing open, stabilizing. He could even see the never gates. Then, search after Screech, the Weeble King, war whales came through, with he himself atop one. They tore through the clouds, with each screech, and the beings that had been frozen still turned wicked, scurrying away. Now see this, Watcher. This is your price for my banishment. But now I say you can thank you. Never wonder way. A fear struck him like he's never felt before, as he watched the inhabitants mutate to nightmares. Meanwhile, the battle was still in full swing. The armor sensed the danger, fusing the king and queen to its true power. Aces wild, dodging the cries and the mages. They headed right for the source, who was more than ready to oblige, answering the call with his blade. Chapter 31. Chapter 31. The battle wasn't going well at all. The cards and the ace tried to only wound up only defending themselves by the grit of their teeth. The dark mages cleared the last of the strays. Even the gypsies were no match. Cheshire headed the Neverland, where it's quiet. The war whales screeched at everything, made the clouds thunderstorms, made the once smiling sun become sad-looking, like a new second moon. But thanks to the demon's overconfidence, or maybe he just wanted to hear the drums. Regardless, the tears was still open, and the regrouping elite now went into spectral, like the dream dancer, using their hearts as the betrayer destroyed their friends and the once loyal followers. They shine like special light towers behind the enraged dancer. Elite, close behind. They shimmered into the monster. They shimmered and slammed into the monster like he's never felt before. The Weeable King was so fast, he kept them basically at bay, but he had to fight to keep that advantage, nearly catching it more than once, as the King and Queen Ace was fast. No, my Weebles, go help the cards, they pleaded. There's no way you can hold him off. Go, he will come. So, being loyal, they listened and retreated to the two of them, and the quadruple had the quadruple the workload just to keep them standing. The elite already furious, plus with the grudge on the mages, they were like a tornado. The cards, seeing there was their brethren caught up there in the second wind. Weebles were knocked out all over the land, and the mages kept coming, never wondering about the consequences. Behold, the dark mind standing at the center, reading the book of knowledge, looking up only for a moment. He smiled and continued reading. Timothy looked around for any others, ready for an ambush, but as far as he could see, off outside in the neighborhood was a box, only by itself, with a chupacabra boy standing next to it, shotgun in hand. Why would he? He thought. The box was plain white, with something golden stringing off it. I mean, really, plain compared to the others. But he didn't have time. If the mime was as fast as the others, he was in a lot of trouble. When he began walking, Tim jumped back before he realized how slow it was moving. Then with a flash, layers of their eyes, an image of the grazed laughing face shot at him, causing Timmy to fall backwards. The dark mime slowly made his way, but as Tim stood up, he had a click behind him and turned just in time to see the barrel of the shotgun go off. Where a great deal unleashed every couple of feet. Tim looked over the edge, only for a second getting dizzy by the drop. The path itself seemed to hold up these great anchored pillars, nearly the width of the path itself, equally spaced down. Swooshing, a blur tapped him on the shoulder. There he turned. A second. Fake pushed him from the same direction, but as far as he could see, nothing. Silence. Just the electricity. As he continued, and by some miracle, the first tapped him, but the second trapped right over him, so he watched the tiny, muscular clown fall to oblivion. Now knowing for sure, he darted down. Whatever tapped him was down there. He ran as fast as he would, keeping balance in the process, seeing the fork in the road. Oh, come on, figures, holding his hand to his head and standing on the verge of another cavern. It was dark and smelled like shit. The floor sludged and slurped with each step. How anything would head this way completely eluded him. He walked through the waving corridors until he just unbearable and decided to head back up. Then the tapping, and he watched the bearded lady circling. Chapter 34. They were grim. Things were grim, and all Q and the overseer could do was watch. It's taking too long. Q turned to the lens, still in the prism. No, it's okay. Something's happening. It's knocking the overseer into a whirl. What do you see? What's going on? Q turned back to the edge. Can't you feel it? The mages were no longer a threat, and the elite turned to the whales, which were unfortunately way out of their league. The cards were cleaning the leftovers and assisting the fallen colleagues. The dazed and confused Ook silently watched the two being destroyed by it, and he understood. He couldn't just sit there. He had to help. Shifting into his hang glider and turning his hands into thrusters, Ook charged the stranger. Q fell over, forgetting it was even there. It glided there ahead before you knew it. He punched the beast with a fully charged fist. With a split second, the good bad boy slammed him the other way. The dream dancer slashed. Ah! It screamed. This was not the Weeble King. The overseer knew that for sure, but what force took control were on the other two rooms of the palace when something else. The overseer missed. Laziness. It's a bad assumption. The demon slid back after finally being overcome. Gilbert, enough of this silly game. Come here. The three stood fast, lost, when all of a sudden the king and queen began to glow again and the fusion split. But instead of half and by half, the armor was still whole, leaving the king of clubs spinning. You could be good boy, Gilbert, laughing back to Neverland. Now then, turning to his awkward occupants, shall we continue? Chapter 35. Tim regained consciousness as he tried to get up to the next relevant blank box. He was inside of some biological, like a person. All that was on it there was he could see was the golden feather. Looking out, he found the creature, the mime, the bearded even the furious Dodo's ass, who worried him more than the rest. They sat there laughing under their breath. All in all, he wasn't afraid. These foolish tunes had nothing on him. Tim smiled, gritting his hand free, started laughing. They looked at each other and never seen him toss the little red seed that exploded, sending vines everywhere, whirling the lot of them up. Oh, it was the funniest thing he's ever seen. The funniest thing he's seen since he arrived. Them flapping in the air, tangled in all sorts of ways. After they cut themselves free, they found Tim standing there again, laughing under his breath. at the four wrapped up in vine. As they were about to attack, he remembered Ook and the cloud of mages coming in. Aye, and the box started. Humming caused the feather to start moving, shifting outwards, attached to his face, then body, with two feathers on his head and two on each leg. They were green lined to a hot pink white feather, and it appeared to have a brown cloth skin, looking at him as it smiled. Then, turning its gaze to the impostors, it sung a rhythmic song. The Carney car gang held their ears in pain of the glorious spectral summons. They were broke down, fading away. Thank you, Tim thoughtfully bowed. The spirit guided him again, holding his hand out, a humbling gesture. Please, I have to hurry and help. The hand pointed to the cul-de-sac. Timmy was confused, but did so. Which one? And the guide put his hand to his heart. Timmy nodded and looked around at the lot of them. He was in a neighborhood. Hey, what's your name? Nimbus. Chapter 36. For the first time since his coronation, the Weeble King landed at the tower's plateau. The three did little to stop anything. All he had to do was crack the lens. He sent them flying this way and that way. The closer he got, the stronger he fought, sending him into a snail's pace. Each time one went flying, another moved in. Then, unexpectedly, a crash of glass. Q slammed his bowl, grabbing each piece of the king. This is over. But with a spinning swirl, he freed himself and stood alone. You're right. Being cut by something soaring out of the lens. It shimmered right off the ledge, flipping around and to take point in front of the plateau. You think you're pretty tough attacking that caterpillar, don't you? The carpet calmly stated. The overseer was just as confused as the rest. Stopping his descent, the Weeble King stabilized himself. No one will stop me from my revenge, especially a flying tapestry. And charged. The three still lost, Tess stepping back as the carpet sent him spinning, countering the king's attack in the same way spin, flip. Their speed was completely at par with one another. The king didn't like this much, as he slammed to the ground with a puff of smoke. The kid stood tall, demon, seizing what happened since he's left. Take your minion and leave. The demon's eyes flared with blue energy blasting up. Puff! The kid became the carpet again and dove through the king's ultrasonic speed. It was vicious. The carpet moved outside his swing and covered him in it. It was dark. The blasting got him. Nowhere he slashed at nothing. Ah, what have you done to me? Why, I warn you. Let me go now. You see, although the top of the carpet was tangible, the bottom half, you see, a carpet is a gate in between realms, a pocket dimension, without an escape. Only Timothy could let him go. Everyone watched the carpet flip around like a bucket of water spun in a circle. No! Wait, not yet! Two glowing white bands appeared, circling around the demon. Tim continued to try to dispel the darkness from the Weeble King, but it was too strong a hold. Chapter 37. The kid carpet flattened out, flying over the others. I have to go. I can't allow this darkness to have a path to Wonderland. Weapons ready. The three were ready to join. No. Look, I need you alone. Only you have been in the palace and might be of assistance. The overseer came close to the lens, trying to peek over its edge. You're going to Neverland? As Zook slid up onto the carpet, they headed for the rip. Kid Carpet watched the vines spread across the once mystical lands, but even couldn't prepare him for the Neverland. He could feel the twisted humors lurking in the shadows, evil things that sent these evil vines that he knew his lady nature never would have given. From the deepest region of the subconscious. As soon as he entered, he sensed the palace welcoming his quest with an open door. Shit, he thought to himself, and got a strange feeling overcome him. Fear, but he wasn't scared. No. What? No, you can. The Weeble King fell silent. The fears were so strong. Yes, I will end this myself and dispel the shadow from your heart, even though it was but a moment. These few seconds dragged out forever, until a deep voice, the Weeble King came in. How am I? The shadow, with a hissing laughter. Like the tower before it, the palace became enormous. Tim felt empty before he could sense the king's emotions or heard his screams. Sense the attack. Now nothing. He knew he was there. He didn't let him go. Stopping right outside. Look, which way? No, you can't. The voice was quiet. He almost missed it. Please don't. Shut up. The evil will stop. But you... And disappeared. Ook pointed through the door, and as they entered, a streak of energy flashed behind the throne, where a solitary box lay hidden, and began to spiral dark, inclining circles. Thank you, in a slow, deep voice, and as the box slipped open, spinning a black and white umbrella, walked out of the a dark figure, looking like a Who from Whoville, slowly walked out. Now you didn't... Didn't what? Well, you might have freed me, but you also released it back with its spirit. I did what? As he watched, its sick smile turned at him. Sensing the Weeble King's truth, he released him. The umbrella never stopped spinning. Who do you think you are? And swayed, putting the umbrella in front as the kid carpet changed, only to come to a slow stop, dazed. The Weeble King threw down his mask. Oi, go get the others. I'll help your friend. Help, friend. Ugh! Turning to a ball, swinging the hand boosters again, squealing away. The Weeble King slashed his swords, and the carpet turned around and attacked. Damn it, boy. Trying to hit with the back of his blade. Snap out of it. The Who took his sweet time, never speeding up or slowing down, just kept his pace towards the fight, transforming into an enormous, hideous creature, snapping its fangs at the king. Thank you for such a powerful gift, Weeble. Hass, 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 hass. The Weeble had to hold off. He needed help to confine the repulsive Who. It snapped It snapped, and it's now two heads, still catching nothing, surveying, lacking in speed, having to use the kid as a buffer and try to block him in. Standing with Ook, the two kings stood firm, watching the kid fighting the Demon King, not understanding the situation and completely missing the umbrella swirling Who. They attacked, knocking the Weeble King across the room. Ugh! He yelled, the carpet taking the advantage. Ugh! Ugh! The two, seeing things under control, turned. Damn it! Ugh, what is? But Ook gestured past, punching the carpet away. Turning to them, Ook, they looked at each other, still not getting it. Ook screamed so loud, screaming his charged fist into the ground, and the place shook, and turned his attention to the Who. It tried to hypnotize the Weeble King's creation, but was unsuccessful. It got hit by a charge. Ook was pure. It's how he was made. Attack that creature, the Weeble shouted, catching the violent assault again, only nearly escaping the sweep to the in-between dimension. It's him. He's back. The Dream Dancer looked to the King of Clubs and turned around. The Who, already still lost in the King of Clubs, followed. They slashed and hit air, cutting air through. No, the umbrella, cracking into another wall. And as the umbrella split, the illusion faded, and Tim was waking up. Seeing the halt, the Weeble King screamed, Go now! After a minute they did, except Tim turned to his body. He's mine, cracking his knuckles. We have to go before he has one of us and a way back to Wonderland. Reluctantly, they followed the three kings out of the rip, Ook closely behind. All was good, returned to normal, safe, but then Timothy had to turn back and go home. Chapter 38. As Timothy woke, his head was spinning. The bright sun hurt his eyes. Apparently he slammed right into a light pole. Shaking it off, he ran to his home, where his mom was waiting. "Damn it, Timothy, you're late for school again." The clock said 8:15. It was only a half hour. The end.